Welcome. What's up, friends? My name is Todd Cook. First, I want to say thank you so much for joining us on the Foam and Friends podcast, where we sit down with people just like you to talk about the spray foam industry and our lives as SPF professionals on and off the job. It's a podcast for us and by us in an effort to bring like-minded people together. Please like, subscribe, and follow to ensure you don't miss any episodes or a chance to get to know your fellow industry professionals. All right, let's get this thing started, shall we? My guest today is owner of Custom Roofing Solutions and Spray Foam Installation in Owasso, Michigan, Dan Warschefsky. Dan, what's going on?
Not a whole lot. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, well, glad to have you. Staying busy?
Oh, we're busy. We're busy.
You're a pretty busy guy. Just by I could tell you got your hands in everything.
A little bit. I had 3 different crews going a day, and I was in the UP actually dropping a dock off for my dad.
Today?
Yeah.
You were in the UP? Wow.
Yeah.
Dropping a dock off.
Yeah. We actually traded some foam work for a big aluminum dock. So they loaded it on my trailer, and I didn't want to take it all the way off to use my trailer again. So we just drove it all the way up north.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think when we were in Vegas, I saw you in Vegas. We hung out for a little while, and you were just like slamming busy then, doing all kinds of.
This winter was a little weird. We were a little slow this winter, but we started picking up right around Vegas is when we started getting busy.
Okay, I think you were talking about how you were working up until you got on a plane. It seemed like you were doing some crazy.
Usually that's normally how we like to do it.
Well, I admire you, but you're not that old. Are you in your 20s still?
28.
28?
Yeah.
So you still got a little more than some of us.
A little bit.
I think that getting to know you a little bit, I think you just have quite a work ethic.
I try. I think last week in 5 days I worked 70 some hours.
Wow.
So my guys love the overtime, so we work as much as we can.
You got to have some guys that can handle all that.
Yeah. They come to me all the time. They're like, "Hey, can I work some more hours?" And I was like, "But you already got 15 hours of overtime this week." And they're like, "Yeah, but I want more." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's work more.
As long as you can give it to them." That's awesome.
Yep.
You said you're just finishing up a mansion, huh?
Yeah, big house is 9,000 square feet. We did a hybrid 1.5-inch closed cell on the walls with 4 inches open cell over the top. And then we did 2 inches on the roof of closed cell and then 6.5 inches of open cell over that.
So the whole house was spray foam?
The whole house was spray foam from the concrete floor in the basement all the way up and over.
Oh, yeah. I did one of those last year.
Yeah.
It was very similar.
Yeah, this one was a little weird. It was a flat roof, but the roof, so it was the footprint of the house was 5,000 square feet roughly, but it had 12 different roofs on it. It was just all cut up and a bunch of different roof lines. And I walked through it with my guys because they've been doing great on that one. And my sprayer actually is kind of transitioning to more a manager role. And so he was kind of running that job. And I walked through it with him and I was like, "Hey, why didn't you spray that?" He's like, "Oh, I thought that was interior. I thought it was the floor upstairs." And I was like, "There's screws poking through it. It's a roof." And he's like, "Oh man," he's like, "Gotta do that one too." But it was so cut up. I get it.
Oh yeah, they are. I can't stand those roofs. I mean, it's not that I don't like them. Just in spray and foam, of course, I'm not a big fan of it there either. But those, I tell people those houses that are built in the 90s and the early 2000s that have it's that was a thing back then to just have the craziest looking roof.
Yeah,
it's almost like wheels on a car. They try to do the fanciest thing they can do to try to get that curb appeal, and it's man, those things don't vent very well.
Yeah,
nothing but problems.
Yeah, we're actually doing a job tomorrow. My guys are nice custom home, all log, timber frame style house. And he vented everything how the building department told him to.
Oh, yeah.
Pulled in fiberglass and, visqueen over that and, did all the stuff right. And his condensation problem was so bad with the steel roof. His condensation was so bad that it literally rained out of the end of the cavities.
Uh,
Yeah. So he's ripping all that out, and we're foaming 7.5 inches right to the roof deck for him.
7.5 inches of
close cell.
Wow.
Yeah, because he's up in Frederick, so like
I've heard of that.
north of Grayling.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So if you guys are, if anybody listening is noticing that I sound a little funny, I don't know. So this last week, it was hot. You know, it was really hot, and so I was walking by my fridge sometimes, and I'm like, man, feeling down my feet, and I'm like, it's kind of warm down there. So I'm like, well, I've lived in this house for 7 years, and this house was, I mean, the refrigerator was probably, who knows, 5 years old at the time, and I've never cleaned it out. You know, did you ever do that? Really? Oh, well, I'll teach you something new then. Especially if you have pets and lots of dust. But what happens is the condenser in your fridge is kind of down below. You pull the fridge out from the wall, and it's kind of down below, and over time, all that, you know, there's fans and stuff blowing around, and it can get full of dust. When it gets full of dust, it doesn't release the heat very well. So what can happen is then your refrigerator runs more often. And so, and it might not be cooling as nicely. So I'm like feeling all that heat. I'm like, man, this thing's running probably a lot more than it should. So I just went out and got a air chuck and air compressor and just blew it all out. And I knew it was bad. You have to take this little panel off, this little cardboard panel. Blew it all out, but then I blew dust all over the place, and I'm breathing it in. And then the next day, I was at this house where I did some closed cell foam on the walls, and then they were going to do a wet spray over top of cellulose. It's not my thing, but that's what the builder wants. That's what he does. That's what he likes to do. So I'm like, whatever. So then they were back on that job. You know, they were on that job the next day, blowing that stuff out. And I'm not around cellulose. I don't do it. And so I don't know. Between those two, it was about 36 hours later, man, I'm coming out like, man, I've got everything. So
something going on.
It could be a cold. It could just be a regular illness, or it could be from one of those two. But either way, so bear with me. I might do some sneezing. I might do some coughing and clearing my throat and all that stuff. But anyway, so you're in, I see online all the time. You're like renting dumpsters and renting campers and like I mean, you'll do anything to figure out where there's some money.
Yeah, we do some different things. My wife and I we have a business called Quality Rental Services.
Oh, really?
A couple years ago, I have all this equipment. I've got a big flatbed, I've got a dump trailer, I've got heaters, I've got a bunch of different stuff that most of the time sits. And I need it when I need it, but when I don't need it, It's just sitting there. So I was like, well, maybe I could start renting it out. So I did it on Facebook, and I started renting stuff out. And like my big flatbed, I rent out for like $300 a day, $1,500 a week. And, you know, it's been decent. It's not great money. I wouldn't quit my day job,
money.
You know, but it's extra money.
Yeah.
And my wife and I decided we wanted to upgrade our camper 2.5 years ago. So we went from a bumper pull to a big fifth wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a buddy of mine who's in the roofing industry, and he was renting out his campers. He's like, hey, you should do that. So my wife kind of took that over, and she does awesome with it. She was actually just in Muskegon today picking it up. And so we've got our bumper pull trailer camper that she rents out on a bunch of different websites and stuff. And I mean, it brings in a little bit of money. It pays for itself. And it's people aren't too hard on it. So like there's not a whole lot of upkeep. Like we've had to replace a couple things, but it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
So
as long as you can do it.
As long as we can do it. Yeah. And we do 95% of all of our mechanical work in-house. So I bought a tire machine. We do all of our own tires. I mean, we do everything. So while I started adding it up, you laugh, but I added it up, and I've got like over 90 tires that I'm responsible for. So between trucks and trailers and all that kind of stuff,
true.
I've got, 90 of them. And it's not, what do they charge to change a tire? $25, $30, to change a tire when you go to a tire shop.
Sure.
That's not a big deal. It's the fact that I have to pay a guy to drive the truck to the place, right? Then I have to pay a guy to drive that guy back to the shop. and then we have to go back and do
Pick
it all
it up.
over again.
Yeah.
So,
it can
you know, it
add up.
kills 4 man-hours every time that we have to do tires. And we have found recently that tire shops don't like doing tires at like 9:30 at night. And that's when we like to do tires.
Right. Yeah.
So last week we were just changing tires at 9 o'clock at night. The week before that, we were 10 o'clock at night changing tires. So we do most of our own work because of the convenience, not because it saves money.
I hear you. That's you have a balancer too?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh wow.
Yep. Yep.
That makes it a whole lot easier.
I haven't balanced a set of tires yet.
Do you know how?
I do. My guys do at least. And I just don't have the right plug for it. So thankfully we've been doing a lot of trailer tires. And
you don't got to balance those.
You don't have to balance those. And then our truck tires, we put them on and we've been running them unbalanced and they're fine. So, you know, maybe when we rotate them, we'll take them off and balance them once I get everything set up. But
wow. I used to work at Discount Tire, like in high school. And so truck tires are actually the ones that usually take the biggest weight. So, yeah. I mean, but you're not usually going 95 mile an hour in trucks like you are like a Corvette or something like that. Where you know, sometimes you don't even notice certain vibrations until you get to a certain speed. So yeah, anyway, that's pretty cool that you got all those machines though. That makes it pretty nice. There's not a lot of people that have that, but like you said, if you got 90 tires, you add up all the tires you have, you're like, okay, I got this lawnmower, I got that trailer, I got that truck, and this is a dually, so that's like 7 with the spare. And, you know, all these trailers, it can add up like crazy. Plus you probably make a lot of friends or just retain a lot of friends.
Something like that. I've got 2 dually pickup trucks. I've got 2 single rear wheel pickup trucks. I've got like 8 trailers. One of them has my big flatbed's got 8 tires on it, not including the spare, so 9 tires.
Yeah.
I've got 2 semis. I've got 2 semi trailers. I've got, you know, it adds
I'm
up.
gonna have to come visit you sometime. I want to see what this place looks like.
Disaster all the time. It's a disaster. My dad was at my shop today, and he's not there very often, but he was there today, and he walked in the door and he's just shaking his head. I was like, just close your eyes and turn around. I know it's a disaster. I know it's a nightmare, but just turn around and close your eyes.
Is he the one that started the company?
He is. So he started Metal Roof Specialists of Michigan in 1977. And he did a lot of just coating systems. So like waterproofing metal roofs, you know, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then he got into the foam business doing foam roofs in like the early 80s.
Really?
And we've actually got a roof right now in Williamston that he originally installed in 1983 that we just recoated, I think, 3 years ago. So maybe it was 4 years ago now. So it's, you know, that one's old, 41 years old.
What did it look like?
Oh, it looks beautiful. We had to do
like when you got to it, was it
beautiful?
Really?
Yep.
From 1983, he was spraying the good stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
And not, I mean, we run into a lot of foam roofs that even he did that, you know, the chemistry wasn't where it is today. The machines weren't where they're at today. So some of them aren't the best, but, you know, we try and do a lot better work now and just learning the industry and that kind of thing. But he kind of phased out of the foam business, I think in the 90s, early 2000s, sold his rigs, and then just would sub everything out. And when I graduated high school in 2014, we got a huge job, and he subbed it out, and what he paid our sub, we could have bought a rig.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's kind of dumb. You know, we should have our own rig. So we bought a rig in 2015. It's still on the road today. Not the same trailer, but all the same equipment.
Okay. The trailer's gone.
I totaled the trailer.
Oh,
that was my fault.
I want to hear about that. We'll get back to that one.
So
I think I just snorted.
We started doing a little bit of foam. I mean, not much. 2015, I think we sprayed our first house in 2015 interior foam wise, and we did a couple roofs. And then like 2017, I got tired of the rig sitting all winter, and I'd have to go out and circulate the hose and do all that kind of stuff. And I worked in the summer roofing, and that was it. and I was like plowing snow for a buddy and like that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, this is dumb. I should do my own thing. Like we should start. So I started advertising insulation, and we started doing insulation, and it grew to be about half of our business in a couple years. We were doing, a decent amount of volume.
You were doing
insulation,
just insulation at the time.
Yep.
And
yeah.
what
And
was that? What kind of insulation? Just
foam,
spray foam, close cell.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we did that through the winters, and then we'd roof with it in the summer. And I've kind of built, in the past couple of years, I've kind of built a team around trying to do both, do insulation all year round and then do roofs in the summer as well. And this year's kind of where it's starting to take off doing that.
Are you doing, when you say roofs, were you ever doing like shingles?
No.
Oh, okay. You're talking about just straight
coatings,
metal,
and
roof.
foam. So we do a lot of coatings. We do a lot of foam. Now we do single ply. So like PVC, TPO, which are just the chemistries of the white sheet. So like if you look out on a building, you see a white sheet or a white roof. And yeah.
Is your dad with you on any of this or not really?
So 2015, I bought into the company, and 2021, he and I work great together physically. Like when he and I are on a roof or working together, no words have to be spoken. We just know what has to happen. We just work together great,
Chemistry.
However, because I've been on a roof since I was like 5. I've been doing it forever. I really started working with him in the summers when I turned 10. So like I've been doing it for 18 years now.
Yeah.
And so he and I work really well together, really, really well together, working. When it comes to management and like business decisions and that kind of stuff, we do not work well together. And it's just our personalities. It's
like the Tuttles. Like maybe are you old enough to remember the Tuttles? No. Oh, Orange County Choppers.
Gotcha.
Father and son that want to kill each other.
Yeah, we're cats and dogs when it comes to decisions and that kind of stuff. But we figured out a deal. Basically, I said, hey, this is what I want to do. And I bought him out of the majority of the company in 21, in the spring of 21. And things have been umpteen times better since then. And he kind of gets to be, I call him semi-retired, because he still does work. He works. And if I called him tomorrow and said, hey, I need you to spray a roof, he'd be there. And he's 73 years old, and he'd outwork anybody that I've got working for me.
Wow.
Yeah. So to give you an idea, I think it was 2 years ago, he and one of my guys sprayed coatings on a 25,000 square foot roof in 6 hours. And the only time that they stopped was to fill up the machine with gas. And my dad sprayed about half of it, and my guy sprayed about half of it. Other than that, they didn't stop.
Just going back and forth.
And he was.
Oh, you had a double pumper.
No, just going back and forth. Yeah. So with our coating sprayers, basically a big paint sprayer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they just swapped like halfway through, and my dad sprayed 12,000 square feet at 71 years old. And just kept on going. And but now he gets to do stuff that he loves to do. So he does sales for me. He does some sales, and then he does we have some properties and stuff together, so he manages a lot of that. And he likes to fly, so he's got his pilot's license, or he's working on renewing his pilot's license, so he goes and flies because he's a part of a club. And yeah,
if he's part of a club that like shares a plane.
Yeah, I think they've got 4 planes, and he gets to fly with an instructor and do that kind of thing. So he has a lot of fun with that, and I get to work and he gets to play, and that's how it should be.
Yeah. That's a great thing to have someone like him as a sales guy.
Yeah,
he's got so much experience, and people can see that he's been around for a while. And he's not making up a bunch of new gimmicky, building, trends or whatever. Like, because I imagine, I don't know much about the whole spraying roofs, but you probably have a lot to overcome when it comes to sales.
We do. The funny thing is if I talk to someone on the phone or if I meet someone in person and they sound older, and by older I mean like 55 and up, not old, but like they could have grandkids type of
Sure.
age. So I will usually send them to my dad because older people respect older people. Some young kid like me, a lot of times they're like, what do you know?
Exactly. You haven't been around very long.
I haven't been around very long. So that's a great kind of thing to have in my back pocket, is to have him, and he's good at sales. He's done it his entire life. So it's good to have him around, and for if not just for that reason, he's good at that kind of a thing. So
you got brothers and sisters?
I've got 2 sisters. I'm
guessing they're older, because if he's 73 and you're 28, that's pretty late.
Yeah, so we have a yours, mine, and ours family.
Okay.
So my mom was married previously and had my 2 sisters. They're 10 and 13 years older than me.
Okay.
And then my dad was married previously, and he had a son. He actually died in 2007. So
how's that?
He had anorexia. So, which is typically considered a woman's disease,
Sure.
But he just couldn't, he was always fighting for the perfect body. And, I mean, it's a mental disorder. So it's just all in his head.
Yeah.
And, his body finally gave out. He was 20, what was he, 23? Something like that. 22, maybe he was 22.
So he was about like 6-7 years older than you.
He
would have been older than that.
He's 12 years older than me.
Okay.
He would have been. Yeah. And when he died, I think he was 68 pounds.
Whoa.
Yeah. So he just gave out. His body just gave out.
My 9-year-old is like 90 pounds.
Yeah. My 5-year-old is 63 pounds.
Holy cow. Yeah, speaking of that, how many kids you got?
I have 3. 5, 3, and a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah.
And your wife stays pretty busy, Megan. Megan, right?
Yeah, she is very, very busy.
She must be, because I mean, I've noticed she's been doing a lot of marketing stuff for you.
Yeah, so she does a lot of my marketing online. She does almost all my books, my bill paying, most of my bill paying, invoicing, payroll. I mean, I couldn't do it without her. It was kind of funny in 21 when we were talking about buying my dad out. I said, listen, my mom was doing the books at the time. My mom has a full-time job. And I said, where I want this thing to go, this kind of needs to be, it can't just be a nights and weekends, every once in a while, because that's kind of how my mom did it, because that's the size of business they had. They could do it that way. And nothing wrong with that. But I said, where I want this to go, I'm going to need a little bit more help. Do you want to do it? And she said, yeah, sure. How much do you think I'll have to work? And I said, oh, not much. 5 or 10 hours a week. 5 or 10 hours a week. That's it. Well, now we're 3 years into it, and my wife probably works 45 hours a week. And
45 hours a week, and raises 3 kids.
And raises 3 kids.
Young kids.
So we have a nanny that helps 3 days a week, which helps her out immensely.
Oh yeah. That's
but yeah, she works very, very hard. Very, very hard.
Shout out to Megan. Good job. She was
and she's the reason I'm on this podcast too.
Well, she is partially.
Yeah.
She when I first started putting stuff out there, she was like, you should have Dan on there. And I'm like, I absolutely will. I just got to find the right time.
Yeah.
And
yeah, she voluntold me to do it.
Yeah, did she give you a little pep talk before today?
Yeah,
of course, you came from the UP, so you weren't even home. You haven't even been home since.
Yesterday I was home yesterday morning.
Yeah. You left yesterday morning.
Yeah.
She excited for you to be on the
podcast. When I told her that I was doing this, she's like, "Really? You're doing it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it because you told me to." And she's like, yeah, but it's going to be fun. You're going to love it. And I was like, thank you, honey. You're the best.
You're like, oh, man. I told you it'd be fun as
Yeah.
soon as we were walking in here. I was
Yeah.
like, it is fun.
It is a lot of fun. She's definitely a big push and a big driver. That's for sure.
She's doing a great job with all that marketing stuff. I mean, making videos and all that sort
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah, she has a lot of fun doing it, so that helps.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah, she has a lot of fun doing that kind of social media type thing. I hate it. I despise it with a burning passion. I spend too much time on social media, and I do not like making content, and she loves it. She's really good at it, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And her videos are usually pretty good.
Mhm.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. You got a good one. So where'd you guys meet?
High school.
Oh yeah?
High school. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. I asked her to go on a date with me, which I didn't think was a date at the time. I was asking a friend of mine to go to a hockey game with me. So we went to an MSU hockey game, and I wined and dined her that night. We went to Taco Bell.
I'm gonna let you get the Nacho Bel Grande tonight.
Yeah. So, and 2 weeks later, I had a job at her parents' farm.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
they were testing you.
Yeah.
Old dad was seeing if this guy's got what it takes.
Feeding calves. So I would feed calves every morning at 4:00 in the morning. I would wake up at 3:30. I would put on my barn clothes and I would go to work. And I would come home 6:30. I'd sleep for an hour and a half, and I'd go to work, or I'd go to school.
Oh, wow.
And I did that 7 days a week for 8 months.
That's how you got her to marry you, probably.
Dad.
Yeah, you had Dad's blessing.
Yeah. We have a little bit of a different relationship, me and my father-in-law do.
Oh yeah.
But
maybe I'm wrong. Okay.
He was impressed that I could get up and I showed up on time every day.
That's definitely impressive.
So that helped. He liked me less and less as time went on. But that's because I was dating his daughter. So I kind of get it. But I remember specifically having a conversation with my mom because I loved my job. I loved feeding calves. It was a fun job. I got to go to work before everybody else was up. I was making, $800, $1,000 a month in high school. That's a lot of money. It was a lot of money. I could keep gas in my truck and go out on dates and do things with friends and all that kind of stuff. So I loved that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'd go to like friends, parties with friends, and I wouldn't drink because I'd have to go to work. Right.
Oh yeah.
And I would literally just stay up. So I'd go to the party and then I'd go to work from the party because everybody's up at 3:00 in the morning anyway. I might as well go to work.
Yep.
But I remember having a conversation with my mom, and I said, Mom, I'm really having a hard time because I really like this girl. I really, really, really like her, but I love my job. And if something happens and we break up, I don't want to lose my job.
Oh, that's funny. Your mom probably had a good laugh on that one.
She did.
Oh man, the old farming jobs.
Yeah.
What's the worst job you ever had?
Milking cows.
That was it? It was the best and worst? Oh, it was just a different one.
That was a different job. I worked for a different farm. One of the winters that I wasn't spraying foam, I worked milking cows for a while, and that is not a fun job. It's very dirty. My first day, I got kicked in the face.
Ooh.
So that was less than ideal. It was my fault, but I still got kicked in the face.
Yeah.
It's dirty. I was milking by myself, so there's no one there. You're there at, 2:00 in the morning till 6:00 in the morning or whatever, the shift was.
Yeah.
And there's no one else there. You're there. It's silent, I don't know. Not my favorite.
Not your thing, huh?
No, I've done I've done a few kind of odd jobs, but that was definitely my least favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never worked on a farm doing that sort of stuff, but I've been around it quite a bit, other friends that did and come and see them or whatever. And
yeah.
One time I was in Wisconsin when I was a kid, and I was at like some relatives' farm, and like I remember, and this is anybody who's a farmer out there, I'm sure there's tons of them that are farmed at least one point in their life. But like they got that gutter that all the cows poop in when they're being like, what do you call that? Like harnessed up for milking.
Yeah.
And like one like little drop came down and like it hit the gutter and then spooped right up in my mouth. And I'm like, oh my God.
Not for you, eh?
Yeah.
Dairy farmers are built different.
Yeah, they're tough.
Yeah, my brother-in-law told me this story one time. He's like, I got a donut. He's like, Dan, I don't get donuts. He's like, I was about to enjoy my donut walking through the barnyard, and a cow kicked, and a little chunk of poo landed on his donut, and he flicked it off and ate the donut.
I mean, I could see maybe if you cut all around it or something.
Flicked it off.
You're still getting the residue.
Yeah.
No, that's no good. That's no good.
Yeah.
He says they don't get donuts.
He doesn't eat them, you know. So the one time he got it, he was like, "I'm gonna eat this dang donut."
Oh, I see. He was excited.
He was excited to eat it.
Yeah. What was we said we'd get back to you totaled that trailer.
Oh boy. So I was driving back from a job in Lansing, and there's the 96 127 interchange. There's a big swooping curve, right? And I looked down at my phone to change the song or change the volume or something, and I looked up, and there's a car disabled on the side of on the top center of this swooping curve, but off the road a little bit, kind of on the shoulder. And I looked up and I went, I'm not gonna miss that. So I jerked the wheel, and the trailer kicked out sideways, and I hit this. I think it was like a Grand Cherokee, older, Grand Cherokee or something, Cherokee.
Mm-hmm.
And it was green, and all the glass in the vehicle exploded, and I pushed it like 15 feet, and everything just went everywhere. So I get off the interchange, and no one was in the vehicle.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that.
It had been tagged, like there was an orange tag on it.
So it'd been there for a while.
It'd been there for a while. And I go down the road, and I'm like, well, if I'm gonna stop, it doesn't make sense to stop a mile and a half away, because that was the next safest spot to stop. It was like a mile and a half from where I hit the car. It's like, so if I'm gonna go that far, I might as well go home and then call the police. Like, there's not like being a mile and a half from it or being right there. It's not that big of a deal. My truck was fine. And I get there, and the whole side of my trailer's caved in, everything in it. It's just is bad. Everything was still functional except for the side door, because I actually caught the gas door of the car in the side door of the trailer. Like I had ripped it off.
Oh, and it was still in the trailer.
Still in the trailer. So we call the police, and they're like, yeah, why didn't you stop? And I was like, because it wasn't a safe place to stop, and I'm not going to put myself in danger for an abandoned vehicle, When you say it wasn't a safe place, was it winter? No, it was because it was on an overpass, an interchange. So like it's right where 96 and 127 come together. So there's a big interchange, and then you get down onto 96, and then there's like 6 lanes of traffic that all converge into one. And I was like, I'm not going to stop here.
Yeah.
So I just kept going, and I called the police and, made the report and that kind of thing. And they called me back, and apparently the vehicle had been sold but not re-registered, and the guy that bought it had like warrants out for his arrest.
Oh.
So like he wasn't going to claim the car anyway.
Yeah.
So really there was no, like, the only thing that happened is my trailer got messed up.
And you didn't get any trouble yourself? No tickets, no nothing?
No, nothing.
No, that's good.
Yeah. Because it had been there. That was the other thing. That's why I didn't get in trouble, is the county or the state police has a deal, like the vehicle has to be moved within X amount of days. Well, it had been there like 3 weeks, and they hadn't moved it. So it was really on them that it was still there. And that's why I didn't get in trouble.
Oh, that's good.
Yep.
Jeez. You're quite a hunter.
A little bit.
Yeah. Tell us about that. You go on like some like Donald Trump Jr. expedition or something.
I'm not.
You don't go to Africa, do you?
I'm not in that tax bracket.
Not yet.
Yeah. So, my cousins and I and a couple buddies went to Alaska last fall for 2 weeks, and we went after caribou on the northern slope. So, like the Dalton Highway, ice road truckers basically is where we were.
Oh.
and it was
Caribou is reindeer, right?
reindeer.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep,
I
yep.
just wanted to make sure because I thought it was.
Yeah. So we went up there for 2 weeks. It was a blast. I mean, I'd go back in a heartbeat. It's a long ways away.
Yeah,
It was a long ways
you
away.
drove.
We flew into Anchorage, so like pretty far south in Alaska.
Yeah, I know where Anchorage is. Yeah,
And then we got a rental vehicle and we drove from Anchorage to Fairbanks. And then we got a different rental vehicle because the Dalton Highway is so bad that there's only like 3 rental companies that let their vehicles go on the highway because it's that, rough of a road. So the Dalton Highway is like 480 or 520 miles from Fairbanks to Prudhoe Bay. And most of it is dirt or mud or snow. And some of it's paved. The paved sections are worse than the dirt sections.
Oh,
because the frost heave is so bad
is Gretchen Whitmer a governor there?
So yeah, so we drove all the way up there. In 2 weeks we drove like 3,200 miles being up.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
whoa, that is a long ways away.
Yeah, we drove a lot. So the Dalton Highway from Fairbanks to Prudhoe Bay takes like 14 hours to drive it. And you're driving anywhere from 25 miles an hour to 70 miles an hour, but most of it's like 35 to 40. Yeah, it's a long drive. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't sit in the car that long. But I'm not actually that big on hunting myself, so that's probably why.
The reason why I would do it again is the landscape getting there is like nothing you've ever seen.
Oh yeah, I've seen the pictures, and
yeah,
pictures never do it justice. I totally believe that. So if it looks that beautiful in pictures, it must be unbelievable in person.
Yeah, it was. I would do it again. The problem is it's a very expensive trip.
Yeah.
The trip itself isn't very expensive, but the gear that you need to have to be prepared is very expensive. So
how many reindeer did you get?
I didn't get any.
Oh.
The hunt that we did was an archery only hunt. So within 5 miles each way of the road, you can only use a bow. And basically
5 miles from the road, you can only use a bow.
Yep.
I think. Is a rifle bullet going to travel more than like?
No, it's because the pipeline runs
that makes sense.
above ground, and they don't want any bullets hitting the pipeline because that would be bad.
That would be bad.
So I think is why they did it.
That makes sense.
And it's also a difficult hunt. So governments will make hunts more difficult. So as a population control. So like if you could go up there and sit on the side of the road and shoot a caribou that's 200 yards away, there wouldn't be any because everybody would go up there and shoot them. Whereas if you have to do it archery, you have to like spot them and stalk them. And it's very, very difficult.
It takes a lot more skill and a lot more skill, a lot more luck probably.
Yeah. Yep.
What are you shooting with up there when you do shoot with a gun?
I think because my cousin, they call it the Death March. If you want to do the 5 mile hike out, so the tundra, to give you a picture, this is how my cousin put it to me because he's lived up there, is fill your garage with bowling balls, water, and cheap hotel mattresses, and then walk across it. And that's about what walking across the tundra is like.
Oh.
So to walking 5 miles on flat ground, easy. Walking 5 miles in the mountains, more difficult. Walking 5 miles in the tundra, extremely difficult.
Oh yeah, I bet.
So to give you an idea how difficult it is, I bought a GPS watch while I was there, to kind of know where I was, before I went up there, I should say. And your average person burns like 110 calories a mile walking. I was doing like 500 and 600 calorie miles.
Oh wow!
Just walking, not running, not doing anything crazy. Literally walking 500 and 600 calorie miles. Yeah,
that does not sound like fun to me at all.
It was nothing easy is worth having,
Yeah.
So I mean, it was cool. It was a cool experience. I would go back. It's definitely something that I'll never forget for sure.
Did anybody get anything?
So my 2 cousins did. They did the 5-mile walk, and they went out. And this is how easy it is with a rifle. They went out. They walked out there. They sat down. And they said, "Hey, there's some caribou over there." And then they're like, "Oh, we could shoot that one." And they walked a little bit further, and at like 300 yards, they shot 2 caribou within half an hour of them being there at the 5-mile line.
Oh,
And then
wow.
it took them 2.5 days to pack all the meat out.
What do you mean by that?
So you have to, you're not driving. You have to quarter up the animal. So like cut off its shoulders and its back and all that kind of stuff. And you put it in your backpack and you hike it across.
And hope there's no bears around.
Yeah.
To take your meat from you.
Yeah. 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 So it took them 2.5 days. And my cousin, my one cousin, my younger cousin, he is in fantastic physical shape. Fantastic. And my older cousin is like Spec Ops Army. So like fantastic shape.
Okay.
And it took them 2.5 days to get everything back out. So like it's a very difficult task.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it delicious?
It was very good. It was very good. Yep.
I bet.
Yep.
You do some bear hunting too, don't you?
I've never gone bear hunting.
Oh, I thought you told me you did.
My dad
not
has.
even up in the UP?
No. My dad has, but I've never done that.
You go up in the UP quite a bit though. Don't you guys? Your family has a cottage or something like that?
Yeah, my family has. We call it the lake house to sound fancy, but really it's a 600 square foot shack on the lake. And they bought that, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, something like that. And we're a part of the Hawa Sportsmans Club, which is a 36,000 acres club that we're a part of, that you get to hunt and fish and ride side by sides and that kind of stuff all over it.
36,000 acres.
Yep.
Then there's like, what do you mean by club? Is it like there's no houses, no buildings on it? Or?
It's a sportsman's club. So like you can have lots. So you can have like a house on the lake, or you can have a house on the river, but like the middle of it, there's nothing.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So if you go out in the middle of it, you're like 8 miles from a road, or 6 miles from a road. So
that sounds fun.
Yeah, it's
is it one of those like where there's no cops? Cops don't ever like, they're not allowed.
It's private property. It's private property.
So there's like a bunch of people just drinking too much. And...
not really that one. They because you have to like go through a background check and stuff in order to be a member. And if someone like sees you out there and they know who you are, they can file a grievance with the club, and they can get you kicked out.
Yeah.
So, and most of the people are retired. So it's like retired people with their kids and grandkids is basically what it is. So,
wow, that sounds great.
It's peaceful. It's peaceful. It's peaceful.
How often do you get up there?
6-7 times a year.
Oh, that's quite a bit.
Yeah.
You just use the cabin. You don't take your camper.
No, I take my camper. So, so with, the wife and 3 kids and 2 dogs, a 600 square foot place, sharing it with my parents, not so much fun.
No.
So we take my camper and park it in the yard. Yep.
That's nice.
Yep. Campers
are nice. I had a camper. You say the new one is pretty new?
Yeah. It's a 2017.
Oh, okay.
So it's decently
not too bad then, because I heard that when COVID went on, a lot of campers are made in like northern Indiana, not too far from here.
Yep.
And I heard when COVID went on, everyone was getting campers. Like, remember that? Like campers, because people were they had the stimulus money, they had nothing else to do. They're like campers and boats. Like the sales just went berserk. And but then the camper, the companies that make the campers, like they trying as hard as they can to pump these out because they're not going to miss out on that money.
They're garbage.
But they're crap.
Yeah,
exactly. They're just like they're doing whatever they can, like the cheapest, crappiest materials they get, because there were supply chain issues, so they couldn't get what they really needed.
Yeah.
So they're just using whatever they could. So like the campers that were like the 21s and the 22s, I heard are just really. I mean, and when you say that the campers are garbage, those ones are garbage. That says a lot, because really the ones, they're all garbage.
They're all garbage. They're all garbage. Like, so mine is a toy hauler, and brand new. I think sticker on it was like $100,000 and some. I didn't pay that because we bought it used. But like high end, right?
Yeah, that is high end.
And I paid like almost half that. But it's a toy hauler, so it's got a garage door on the back. Last year, I fell through the garage door with my side-by-side.
Oh no.
Because those garage doors are literally made out of fiberglass, 1/8" Luan, so like plywood. So like fiberglass, 1/8" Luan, 1.5" foam board,
1/8 plywood.
1/8" Luan, and grip tape, and that's it. There's no supports in the center. There's no nothing. It's literally just this thing that's sandwiched together, and that's it. Well, if it gets any water in it, it falls apart.
Cardboard.
So I literally just fell through it with my side-by-side.
But that thing is actually meant to handle.
It's literally designed
at least a
to do
couple
that.
thousand pounds, if not more, because it's a toy hauler ramp door.
Yep.
And yet it's
garbage juice.
So what'd you do with that?
That was the day before I was supposed to leave for Memorial Day weekend with my family.
It's always at the worst time. Of course.
So I built it out of 2 layers of 3/4 inch plywood. So right now it looks super, super ghetto because it's just this plywood door on the back of this really fancy camper.
Yeah.
But I bring a little bit of me to everything, you know. I'm a little bit ghetto.
You probably get some funny looks.
I do.
People pass you on the fast lane and they're like, who is this
thing?
guy who's got this fancy camper that he can't even afford to
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, I can't afford it because I took it to a place and I was like, hey, I'll get a new door put in. $6,000. And I was like, I'll rock my ghetto door, you know. It cost
At least it's solid.
Yeah, and it cost me $300. Like,
yeah.
It is what it is.
At least it can hold my side by side.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Let's do some unless you got anything else. What anything else you want to talk about? No? Anything interesting? Nothing too interesting about Dan that must be said on this podcast?
I don't
Okay.
I don't think so.
All right, let's do some fast questions then. They don't have to be fast, but it's just stuff I came up with. How many SPA conventions have you attended? And it doesn't have to necessarily be the conventions. It could be just meetups like the Spray Foam Worldwide or whatever.
The conventions, I think I've been to 4.
Oh wow.
I think I went to 2019,
which was
Daytona.
Uh-huh.
I went to that with my wife. And then we went to San Antonio.
Uh-huh.
And then Daytona again.
Uh-huh.
And then Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So.
And then you went to a couple Minnesotas. Are you going to Minnesota this summer?
I don't. If work allows, I'd like to. It's a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
And surviving the tornado was pretty cool.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That was. I think I met you there. That was the first time I met you. Yeah.
I think so. So, the first time that we went to that was actually because we were doing a job in Minneapolis.
Oh yeah.
At the time.
Uh-huh.
So we just happened to be there.
You're like,
and we're like, hey, let's go. So we went.
Yeah.
And then my wife and I went last year. It was a lot of fun. So
yeah. So last year, we gotta touch on that one because that was an interesting one. So we were Trevor won the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And then me, you, and a few other guys all decided to go. Was it Fridays or something? We were gonna go get something.
Yeah,
it
we
was
went
late
to TGI's
night.
Fridays.
Oh, the bar. We closed down the hotel bar. It was kind of closed early.
And we went to TGI Fridays.
We went to TGI Fridays. And you and I were walking over there because it's across the street, and we were talking about Trevor and how he can't drive the truck because of his medical issues. And I said, Dan, you were talking. You live like very close to him, right?
I live like 5 miles from him.
5 miles from him. This is Trevor Monroe, for anybody that doesn't know, who won the GMC truck last year. And so I said, well, Dan, why don't you just drive that truck home for him if you live that close to him? And Dan's like, yeah, I could. He's like, my wife's here. She can drive the car we all rode in on.
Yeah.
And I said, well, hit him up on Facebook or Messenger or something. Say, hey, I can drive it home. The next day, I think I found out that was going to happen. You were going to drive it home. I wake up and get ready, and I leave the hotel room, and the truck's still in that little circle where it was the whole weekend. And I'm like thinking, well, Dan hasn't left yet. Truck's still there. So then I end up leaving, and I stopped for maybe 25 minutes. And I get home, and I get on my phone, and you're already home. And I'm like, you're like 75 miles or 50 miles further away from Minneapolis than I was. How did you get that home so fast?
Oh, it drives so nice.
Well, that worked out really good.
It
that,
did. It did. And funny enough, that event, you know, it was what, a Thursday, Friday, Saturday or something like
I think
that.
it was just a Friday through Sunday, but some people might
maybe
have got there early
maybe
on
it was
Thursday.
That. So the Saturday before, I got my appendix taken out.
Oh, you did?
So I wasn't allowed to work, you know, that week. And I was like, man, we already paid for this thing. That's probably overdoing it, you know, to drive all the way there and that kind of a thing. So finally I decide, you know what, screw it. We're just going to go. And we go out there, and I told my dad, because I told him, you know, it was just my wife, my kids, and I told my dad, I said, you know, because he likes to come to these things. I was like, I'm just going to go. Like, you don't need to come. I said, but I'm going to be driving that truck home.
Oh, I bet this is good.
And so we do that whole deal with Trevor. I'm still hurting a little bit from my appendix.
Yeah.
And my wife goes to get in the car the next morning. The valet brings it out flat tire.
Oh, yeah. I think you said that before.
So my wife's got like a 6-month-old, right? 7-month-old.
You guys haven't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she's, you know, handling it. Right. And then we've got 2 other kids.
Right.
And we've got a flat tire. And I have to change the tire. So I asked Trevor, I'm like, hey, is it cool if I go to the store? And he's like, yeah. You know, use it whatever you need. So I have to drive to Walmart, pick up all the tools that I need because I don't have anything in my wife's car. Drive back, change the tire, which I'm not supposed to do. You know, put it all back on because I was only allowed to lift like 5 pounds or something like that. Yeah. So I haven't been any help for my wife the entire trip because I can't pick up any of the kids. I can't pick up strollers. I can't pick up bags. And here I am changing a tire on this in the hotel parking lot. And we get it all changed, get all that done, hop in the truck. It's my daughter and I. And we just start going. And my wife actually got home like 3 hours after me because she had to stop and like feed the kid.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Do all that kind of stuff. But I told my dad, I called him from the truck and I was like, listen, I'm driving it home. I was like, it ain't mine, but I'm driving it home.
That's funny. What did he believe you for a second?
I took a picture of it.
Oh, that's funny. All right. You ever won anything at an event?
Actually, at that event, my daughter won a scooter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah, like an electric, like little razor scooter or something like that?
Yeah, a razor scooter, basically. It's got big tires on it. She loves it. She rides it around our garage and stuff all the time.
Oh, yeah. Those things are fun.
Yeah.
Kids today got it so easy.
So easy.
So easy. We had like, you know, regular like human powered scooters.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Well, hers is human powered, but she's a little bundle of energy. So
it's one of those scooters.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yep,
okay.
Yep.
Yeah. You ever see one of those ones from like from the 80s, like the late 80s that had like maybe like 8-inch tires?
Yep.
Same thing?
Yeah, similar to that. Yeah.
Yeah. We used to have those. I remember those. Let's see here. Where's the furthest from home you've traveled?
Probably Alaska.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's pretty far away.
Yep.
What's your all-time favorite cereal?
Captain Crunch. Cinnamon Toast Crunch is my favorite cereal.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch. That's pretty good.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. You still eat it?
I do not. I don't normally eat breakfast.
No, I don't really either. I noticed I got a lot more energy from like up until about 11 o'clock if I just don't eat breakfast.
Yep.
It's like that. It's almost like intermittent fasting. I mean, that's breakfast is break fast. That's break a fast. That's what it is. But yeah, I find that if I have breakfast, I can usually, it takes a while to get the energy going, you know, like 9:30, 10 o'clock, I'm starting to feel it. And then I can go all the way to dinner at that point. But if I just don't have breakfast, I can get the day started better.
Yes. So I'm used to skipping meals because when we work, we don't normally stop a whole lot. Right.
Yeah.
And while we were in Alaska, my buddy works kind of a desk job, not really a desk job, but he's a machinist, right? So he gets his lunch every day at the same time. He's used to that. And I'm driving along and he's, complaining that he's hungry. And I was like, you know what? The next pizza place I see, I'll pull over because we're in the middle of the Alaskan bush, right?
The next pizza place, yeah.
And no joke, 15 miles later, here's a pizza place
Oh,
on the
wow.
side of the road. I'm like, if that ain't a sign, I don't know what is. Yeah, I was just outside Denali National Park. There's a pizza place, great pizza.
Is it?
And it's literally like we were driving along and there's literally a sign that just said pizza 1 mile. And we're like, what?
I bet they sell a lot of pizza to hunters.
They
I
do.
mean, like if you're the only restaurant around,
Yeah.
and, you know, you're doing all this work, like you said, burning all these calories.
Yeah.
You're gonna be hungry.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, what's the last one? What is going to be your next toy purchase?
A side by side.
Yeah. Well, you already have one.
Yeah, but
you
mine's
need 2? Or you just
no.
you're gonna get
I have a 3-seater,
upgrade.
and there are 5 of us. So
Oh yeah.
So there's not a whole lot of room, and mine's older. It's beat on. I actually traded work for it. So it doesn't owe me a whole heck of a lot, you know.
Mhm.
And my buddy just bought, well, he bought it last year, a Polaris Pro R. And that thing is so much fun. Oh man, 80 miles an hour and you're floating like you're on a cloud. Oh, it's amazing.
What are those things running nowadays? Like 40?
45.
45
grand.
You can ride them on the road too, can't you? Now
some depends on where you are. Yeah.
Oh yeah, different ordinances. Yeah. Yeah,
they're a lot of fun, but man, are they expensive.
Yeah, they definitely get a lot for them, but there's a lot to them. I mean, it is kind of like a car.
Oh, it's
one heck of a suspension. But yeah, I mean, it costs as much as a nice car.
A nice car.
Yeah, a real nice car.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey man, thanks for being on the show. It was awesome to get to know you better.
Yeah, for sure. It was a fun deal.
All right, everybody, don't forget to like and subscribe and all that fancy stuff. We'll get out of here. Goodbye.